This is Keys to the Shop, episode 371. Baristas, don't be a hero. Well, hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Keys to the Shop, where we give you insights, inspiration, and the tools you need to grow as a coffee service professional. My name is Chris DeFirio. I'm your host for the show, and I'm excited to have you along today. Don't forget to subscribe to Keys to the Shop so you can stay updated with all the new content that comes out, and also share these episodes with a friend. Share Keys to the Shop on social media whenever you have the opportunity, and that's a great way, both of those things actually, to support the show. I want to mention to you also that one of the things I offer on top of this podcast is consulting and coaching for you and your business. Keys to the Shop Consulting is all about helping you find the clarity you need to run a profitable and successful coffee shop. The proven Keys to the Shop process has helped hundreds of people and companies all over the country build something wonderful and find joy and success in the process of running a great coffee bar. Really, it's all about helping you gain control of your daily operations, increase your profitability, develop your leadership, and care for and engage your staff and customers. And if you think you could use an advisor and a coach to help you in the process of improving your coffee bar, go ahead and email me, chris@keystotheshop.com, and we'll set up a free discovery call where we can talk in depth about how Keys to the Shop Consulting can help you. Again, that email for Keys to the Shop Consulting, chris@keystotheshop.com. Now, consistency is key to running a great coffee operation. Your customers want to know that when they get a cup of coffee from you, whether it's the afternoon, morning, or weekend or weekday, it's going to be a great cup and it's going to be consistent. And doubly important is that the consistency is of the highest quality. And those are the types of things that you can expect when you're using the ground control Cyclops brewer from Voga Coffee. This is a revolutionary piece of equipment that is turning the world of batch brew coffee on its head, but through its SCA award-winning technology that gives you the control over the extraction of such an incredible range of flavors in your coffee. It'll be like getting to know your coffee all over again. But it's not just an amazing batch brewer. It also makes tea, batch diced lattes, batch cold brew. So it's a workhorse, and it exponentially increases your workflow and output, as well as increasing your quality. So you should check them out over at groundcontrol.coffee to learn more about this awesome brewer and what it can do for your coffee shop. If you're into the idea of increasing your quality and your workflow and productivity and profitability, then I definitely think you should look into getting a ground control Cyclops brewer for your cafe. Again, for more information, check them out at groundcontrol.coffee. You know, when we think about plant-based beverages, sometimes, if we're honest, we think it's a good beverage, but it's not regular milk. It's not, what we are excited to make. And for some, maybe that's legitimate because you're not using the right kind of plant-based beverage to create those drinks. The frustration of not really having a drink turn out the way you want it when it's a plant-based beverage can be alleviated by choosing a great ingredient like the Barista series from Pacific. The line of plant-based performance beverages from the Barista series performs on the bar because it is painstakingly created for baristas and approved by baristas all over the world before it even is launched. So it stands up to the heat from steaming, produces awesome texture for latte art, and the flavor also keeps the balance focused on the coffee. So those are three things that immediately tick the boxes of kind of things we want in a specialty coffee beverage. So you should go to pacificfoodservice.com and get samples sent to your store and try it for yourself. I think you're really going to be impressed. If you want awesome quality in your beverages and you want to feel proud of what you're serving, knowing that you're working with a performance plant-based beverage that actually lives up to the hype, then you definitely need to be using the Barista series from Pacific. Okay, everyone. Well, today I wanted to talk to you about something I see happen all the time in coffee bars, and that is where well-meaning baristas, and this also applies to managers, try to be heroes and save the business from itself. Now, let's be under no illusion here. There are lots and lots of coffee shops out there where it is just beyond repair. There are things that are so annoying and so toxic, and At the same time, there are baristas who, because they're tapped into the industry and they see other places that don't have the same kind of dysfunctions, and because internally they know what's going on is not ideal, it's not as right as they want it to be, they try to save the business in futility. They think that I can change them. And this is similar to what happens when owners hire baristas who are not the right fit for their business, who should never have been in public service at all or working in that coffee bar. But because of the sunk cost into that person, they believe I can change them, I can reform them. And we have this aspiration of reformation, whether you're an owner or a barista, and especially if you're a manager. And my message to you today is to not be a hero. And I want to cover a few things today that I think will help you overcome this urge to marry yourself to a toxic situation in a way that's unhealthy because you want to see reformation happen out of the goodness of your heart or a desire to, make a difference, but it may be misguided, though it may be noble. Now, the first thing is trying to save the business. You see that maybe the owner and operator is making decisions about the business that you don't agree with. You don't think that, it's right to spend money in this or that area. You see that they are not addressing problems that impact a lot of different areas of the business. And what we end up doing is we either try to force our will by making a case for improvements, or we try to do this on our own without making a case for it, just kind of being what we call an intrapreneur, where somebody basically tries to open their own business within a business. Neither one of those methods usually work when you're dealing with an owner who is just gung-ho for the wrong direction. They are an absentee owner who doesn't really give a lick about the people. They just are bitter and irresponsible people. And there are tons of coffee shops out there run by people like this. And the world would be better if these coffee shops didn't exist, because then we wouldn't be forced to just take solace in the silver linings in an otherwise majority bad situation. But each of those examples is kind of doomed to fail for a couple of reasons. One, if you're dealing with an unreasonable owner who to this point has seemed like, you need to drag them along in progress, kicking and screaming, you may persuade them with smooth words and, maybe even sharing some insights from other sources that maybe this is something to try out. But there is a nursed sense of skepticism that will overwhelmingly cause them to have a negative bias towards this new initiative of yours, whatever it is. If it's a new menu item, if it's a new way of, organizing the morning shift and things like that. What you have to understand is a person who has made up their mind that no matter what you say, they're just kind of waiting for it to fail. Eventually, what's going to happen is they're going to pull the plug on it, or if you move on, it's not going to last beyond you. And that's the same when it comes to doing things on your own without asking permission because you feel desperate. If you look at the owner and you say, well, they're not really the type of person who would receive this kind of feedback or even entertain the idea. But if I just did it and they were just walked in one day and were like, wow, why is this place better? And I'd say, oh, it's because we did this and that. They'll love it and they'll change and they'll see and more good change will happen in the future. And maybe I'll get a raise. And usually that's not what happens. Either you end up on the hook for maintaining it without any kind of reward or compensation, and it's just, you being taken advantage of and them getting the rewards of your work, or they just pull the plug on it in that scenario as well, and they get even more irritated that you did it without their permission, even though they haven't really been involved in the business for so long. They don't like you making changes, even if it's a change for the better, because change is scary and they already have a lot of insecurity. So this kind of a mindset of trying to save a business is kind of doomed from the beginning. A redeemable way of thinking about this is that not that you're trying to start a new business in this space, is that you do the best you can within the construct that you've been given. Do it as faithfully and as excellently as you can, knowing that you might not get rewarded for it in the meantime, but you will gain the reward of experience and integrity that will follow you the rest of your career. This is not a place that you need to be staying long term. And that is the theme of today's talk. We will put up with dysfunction for an incredibly long period of time because we think we can redeem and reform that which has decided that it doesn't want to be reformed. It doesn't want to be made better. And all you have is the day. All you have is the shift. All you have is your coworkers. And you can do the best you possibly can within your integrity, within your job. And that is actually quite a lot. And you can, as long as you know it's not going to maybe lead all the places you think it'll lead at first, try to rally for particular changes that in the temporary will make your lives easier or make the business better. It's kind of an experiment that you're running with their business, with their permission, to use as an example for maybe later in your career. Again, you've got to have a vision beyond this place, but don't get into this mindset that, the owners, they don't know what they're doing, but we the few, we the knowledgeable and the righteous, we're going to make it. We're going to make it happen in spite of them. That is, again, I think, slightly misguided. You're not going to change them. That's the other thing, is you can't change the people that run the business. For the majority of us, we're working with people who have become set in their ways. And unless they've explicitly reached out and are trying to create avenues of feedback and inviting ideas and concepts, and they want to see you be co-creative in this process, it's going to be an uphill battle. And if you think that, just the right words and the right initiatives will bring down this beam of light and illumine their mind, it just isn't going to work out that way, not in my experience. Now, you might see the writing on the wall at a certain point. You've been faithful in your job. You are more than communicative. Maybe you've brought ideas out there to try to improve the situation for yourself and your coworkers, and you've been met with resistance, or you've been given some kind of tacit permission, but not a real lot of belief in what you're doing. Sort of like, do what you want, but it's probably going to, fail or whatever. At a certain point, you see the writing on the wall that you would be better off going someplace where you can grow, where you can thrive, and you don't have to constantly be licking your wounds of damaged morale and disenfranchisement and etc. But what holds us back is we don't want to leave our friends, because we imagine it's like leaving my coworkers on the battlefield. We don't leave a soldier behind. And we would rather see all of our friends leave with us than leave ourselves. And as noble as that may be, it's just not practical. And you have to look out for yourself at a certain point. There might be a number of reasons why your friends might have to stay in this business. And they can make their decisions, they might not be able to leave. But if you find the ability to leave and that you can, I really think you should. Instead of staying in a situation where your best is just met with that kind of resistance all the time, where there is some kind of a lesson in resilience you can learn there. And I think you would benefit from learning in that environment to a degree. Past a certain point, all you're doing is you're damaging yourself. And what you're instead going to walk away with is a crippling sense of spite and bitterness that will not allow you to be as creative or have the kind of energy that you need to fuel the rest of your career, otherwise called burnout. You will burn out. And I've had lots of people talk to me about this over the years. They'll talk to me at Coffee Fest about it, because they'll come to a talk about employee retention or hiring and systems and other things that we talk about at Coffee Fest. And they'll talk about how, I wish our owners could have heard this. They're not here. They sent us. They want to bring the information back. And automatically my hackles get raised a little bit. I'm just like, man, they should be here. They're the primary people, just as a side note. But some of the stuff that I hear is really eyebrow raising in terms of just how much bitterness and frustration has been developed as you start to ask questions after their initial question. Like, okay, how can we get our owners to whatever, fill in the blank. We'd like for this to be possible, but we know from the past that stuff like this never really lasts. And how can we, again, fill in the blank? And it's sad because I know that feeling. I too was that type of person to try to save a business, doing all I knew was good to do in spite of a person's inability to see that, in fact, they were the speed bump to their own organization. In fact, their mannerisms and the way they treated people and treated me and other people was just obvious to everyone but themselves. And in the meantime, what are we supposed to do? Eventually all of us at that particular era, left the business, but it took time. In between leaving and the realization that change is not going to be the kind of change that you hope to see, you have to make do with where you are. And the best thing I could say is guard yourself against bitterness and spite, and know that not every owner is like that. Not every business is as dysfunctional. There are places where you can land and you can seek them out. Just like a owner would hire a barista, you need to look in a way as if you are hiring a coffee shop to work in, and judge that coffee shop through the lens of the values that you've developed over the course of your life, and also even the things that you don't want from a workplace environment based on this particular experience that you're having. You have to guard yourself against this because, believe me, it's extremely difficult to emerge on the back of bitterness and spite in a healthy way, and to take advantage of opportunities fully without reserving a part of yourself in fear because of how you were wounded from past experiences. So don't be a hero is basically saying, no one is asking you to save this business. You, in fact, cannot save that business. Really, the ultimate person who can make the big difference is the person who, in a lot of cases, unfortunately, will not make the difference. And so if we go into this with eyes wide open, we can guard ourselves against these kinds of things and take advantage of opportunities to move to a better place where we can thrive, while also learning lessons where we are as we're waiting to find that better place and actively searching for it. Owners, when you're listening to this, you have to ask yourself, is that me? You have to ask yourself, is it possible that my baristas feel this way about us? And no doubt there are baristas who inevitably will call owners to the mat for the silliest things, and will make a big deal about a ton of stuff that in the wash is it's not really that important. And there's always going to be this difference where you have to, as an owner, kind of, push past that, not in a rude way. You have to address it, but you still have to be decisive. However, that said, it's always best practice to examine yourself and see if you have not lapsed into a place where you are causing unnecessary burdens because of being busy, being out of touch, not delegating, but basically abdicating. There's a big difference. You could throw things at people and tell them to basically take it on, and it wouldn't be delegating. It'd be basically just being irresponsible. And unfortunately, that's a way a lot of coffee shop owners operate. They don't delegate, they abdicate. And so this is a call to you as well to say, what are you doing in your organization to encourage an atmosphere and a culture of feedback where people are heard and seen instead of just pushed off to the side and seen as irrelevant, or where it's just the theme of the day is that you resist them. And that's again, so many coffee shops are like this, where we would suggest this to the owner, but they are unapproachable. They are defensive, which is a sign of immaturity. They are rude. They will not listen to us. And sometimes baristas, it might be the delivery that you have. So you have to watch out for your own self in the process of delivering feedback and in conversation. This is where the idea of mutual empathy really shines. We can overcome these things by examining ourselves and asking, how am I coming across to the other? How am I supporting the other? And how am I creating a culture of communication by my mindset and my actions that will heal these rifts in relationships or prevent them from happening to begin with? So baristas, I just want to say, don't be a hero if you find yourself in these situations. Don't try to reform people, or the owners especially. Just be faithful with what you've been given to do and try to thrive where you can. Work on the possibility of moving to a different place. Try not to take these things personally. A lot of the reasons why it is the way it is because of a gross sense of insecurity and immaturity in ownership. And it's not because of you specifically. It's just the circumstance and someone who's stuck in their ways. It's not up to you to change them. It's up to you to take ownership of your own growth. And I really just, feel strongly that I want to deliver that to you all today. And I hope that it was a helpful topic for you today. I'll have some other related episodes in the show notes for this episode that I think you'll find interesting on a similar track of thought. And of course, if you have any questions, comments, or feedback about this episode or any other episode on the show, feel free to email me. Chris@keystotheshop.com is where you can do that. Now, if you are interested in bettering yourself as a professional, if you want to create a better environment and be equipped for success, a place to do that, like I mentioned earlier in my talks, is at Coffee Fest trade shows. If you go to coffeefest.com, you're going to see the upcoming shows for 2023. And Coffee Fest has been going on for 30 years now. That's 3 decades of what I think is the best event for coffee retailers, because you get free and accessible trainings, lectures, workshops, panel discussions. You get the trade show floor with great vendors to interact with, the cold brew competition, latte art, as well as the great coffee community that gathers around this event. It's very energizing and resourcing. So I encourage you to go to coffeefest.com again to learn more and sign your team up today. And you can get 50% off your registration by using the code KEYS when you sign up for any of the shows. So I hope to see you there at Coffee Fest. Again, check them out at coffeefest.com. And with that, that is the end of our show today, everybody. I hope that this was helpful again. Let's stoke the fires of mutual empathy instead of the fires of enmity between us, and also set healthy boundaries that allows for us to grow and plan for our evolution beyond the circumstances that we find ourselves in now. I thank you for supporting the show. Share these episodes with a friend. Follow us on Instagram at Keys to the Shop. And as always, I hope that this episode has truly given you keys to the shop.